let's get into the news. Earlier this week, Lio Rush retired after one stint with AEW Wrestling. Does AEW do that to you, Drew?
I think with Lio Rush, he's a great talent, and I just think at this point in time, I think he was injured
Right.
after that one stint in AEW. And whatever this guy decides to do, if it's come back to wrestling, if it's to go into music, if it's to go into acting, I just think as a fan of his, I will support whatever he does. It's just sad that he's leaving pro wrestling, but whatever is down the road for him in the future, as a fan, I will be supporting it 100%.
What say you, Drew?
To put it into Pokemon terms, Lio Rush has evolved into MVP. I can't help but feel like Lio Rush is a great talent. He did kind of run his mouth a little bit, and as much as I hate to see anybody injured, the irony of this sudden retirement is not lost on me. Although somebody somewhere in the wrestling will find some value in him. There is value in him in some capacity as part of anything wrestling related and video game related. Now that I think about it, so.
Do you think Lio Rush has always been, to put it in a nice way, a polarizing figure in pro wrestling? Do you think this is just more of him kind of overreacting to an injury rather than an actual serious, consideration that he's actually hurt?
If this was anybody else, I'd probably take it a little bit more seriously. But given Rush's penchant for the dramatic, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an attempt to drum up some, some talk.
Well, let me phrase the question this way. Do you think we'll see Lio Rush back in a wrestling ring again, Drew?
You will, but what I'm hearing from you guys, it feels like this, and I'm not trying to bring race into the conversation, but Lio Rush, it looks like me. And Lio Rush, like many other black performers, do not get the same are not painted with the same paintbrush. If this was a cisgender white male doing this, we would just say, oh, he's injured, he's retiring. Scooter says that this could be drumming up more for him down the road, which is fine. You're allowed, if this is gonna up your value, if this is gonna up your price and what you get down the road in a contract, go ahead and do so. But I think our problem as fans is we get too cynical and too locked down on what these guys and girls decide to do with their lives in this career. I have never taken a bat bump in my life. I have never been body slammed in my life. I've watched this genre of entertainment for the last 25 to 30 years. And to see a black man be able to take what he feels is the right move for his career, kudos to him. If he decides to come back, there will be some company that will be willing to pay him. If it's not WWE, AEW, New Japan, NWA, et cetera, et cetera. But I just think we need to stop trying to figure out exactly where this guy's trying to fit in and trying to get his bread exactly for a lesser cost.
Well, my perspective on it had absolutely nothing to do with race. The fact that Rush is a guy that likes to put, Rush puts a lot of thought into into drumming up the talk around him. So anything he does, most likely it is calculated and has thought behind it. And he does love to stir the pot, so to speak. And that's one of the great things about Lio Rush is that he, while being a tiny guy, his mouth could back it up, and he had the talent to do it both in and out of the ring.
And he has had controversy. He did burn a bridge in Ring of Honor, from what I heard, and he was maybe not the most liked guy in the WWE locker room as well. But that's just him kind of doing him. And Kaliko had always said, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And he was actually doing pretty decent in New Japan and Impact Wrestling. So
No, he was also in MLW. He was their middleweight champion for a while in MLW.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, you have to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I agree with you, Scooter, 100%. If this is something that he's doing, which he has done in the past, to drum up business for himself, go for it. So if this is 6 months, a year down the road, and he can get money, because we're looking at a world where people are vaccinated, travel restrictions are getting lessened, guys can go overseas, guys can go the progress of the world in the UK, you can go wrestle in New Japan, All Japan, Noah. So if this is a way for him to say, let me I'm injured, let me heal up and come back, and now I'm more of a draw to make more money for myself, kudos to him. I do think we're going to see him sooner rather than later, to be honest with you.
I agree with that as well.
And speaking of people we might be seeing sooner rather than later, one, I was going to say, WWE reportedly has rehired Sean Daivari.
I didn't hear that.
As a producer for SmackDown. He was backstage at SmackDown last night. It's funny because he worked the NWA TV and pay-per-view last week, and as a producer. So very interesting there. And yes, WWE apparently wants Samoa Joe back in NXT.
And that would actually be a pretty good get for NXT. Obviously his WWE run was so-and-so. But his NXT run was actually quite spectacular. If this actually does go through, would you be excited to see Samoa Joe in NXT, Scooter?
Well, it depends if it's in a performance role. If it's as a trainer or as a coach,
I heard that it was as a talent.
Then I would expect him and Finn to go at it one more time.
What about you, Drew? Do you think that seeing Samoa Joe in NXT would kind of revitalize his career?
Nope. We've already seen that movie. We don't need to see it again. I think it's time for Samoa Joe to either take one more stab and do a run where you just do what Cody did when Cody left WWE before AEW and just work for everybody for like a year and then shut it down. Sorry?
Oh, Cody had a top 10 list.
I'm saying Joe should do the same thing. I think Joe should not be going back to NXT. I think that ship has sailed. I think, to be honest with you, NXT has become very stale, and we've developed a couple new guys which were on top when they were in factions, and now Joe going back there, it's just another person that was there trying to revitalize something. To me, Joe would work perfectly as a commentator somewhere. Like that's where his bread is buttered right now. I don't think we need to see Joe back in the ring unless it's away from the WWE banner, 100%.
Well, one more thing that we finally, I guess we could say we're finally getting it, is that Impact Wrestling is finally marching into AEW territory.
That is true. Moose will be wrestling Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship. Actually later today. Honestly, I think this is smart because if you want to have the AEW has a crowd, Impact doesn't right now, so it would be smart to have that extra little boost to make the championship match a little bit more special. What say you, Strudel?
Yes, but again, we all have an idea about where AEW is, or where Impact is going to go with this. We come up with the idea of supporting somebody, and then they end up it ends up being kind of a little bit of a throwaway match here, because the winner goes on to face Sami Callihan at Slammiversary, which is a very odd situation. Quite honestly, this is not really befitting of Kenny's gimmick right now, if you really think about it.
True.
I mean, Kenny should be demanding Moose and Sammy fight for the honor of fighting him. This may have something to do with Moose's contract.
Did he resign though?
There's no definite of whether he's signed or not signed yet. I know the reason that this match is happening is because Moose says he wants to win the Impact Championship before his contract expires.
Then it's probably a gimmick.
Yeah, it also expires like later this summer. So he's got maybe a month or two.
So is this strategic to try and maybe get the belt off Kenny before their big pay-per-view? I know Kenny is maybe dealing with some injuries right now. Drew?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my fantasy booker hat on. Moose's contract is reportedly up at the end of June. So I think Moose wins the TNA title and then comes on, and I believe Slammiversary is in July, correct?
I believe so, yes.
I don't really tune into Impact Wrestling that much.
None of us do.
So if that's the case, right? I could see Moose ending up on AEW with those same titles. And then Sammy could be the one that comes and collects it because he's an Impact guy more than Moose is. So I just think it's trying to drum up a storyline. Yeah, it's cool that they're gonna have this match pre-taped in Daly's place, but has this partnership with AEW turned the needle for Impact Wrestling?
I mean,
Not at the beginning, but it hasn't really paid off. Yeah, Kenny has their belts, but here's the thing: throughout this whole thing, we have never seen one Impact wrestler show up on Dynamite and attack Kenny or attack a wrestler in AEW. To you know what I mean? It's like this friendly fire they have with them. Like, oh, you can show up on our show because of Don Callis, but Scott D'Amore never goes into any of their ears like Eddie Edwards or a Sami Callihan or a Chris Bay or anybody that's on their roster and say, hey, this guy pretty much came into our house and stole our property or won our property. And then nobody's going there week after week saying, hey, I want a shot at my title. And it would have been fine that, say, a wrestler from Impact went on to AEW and challenged for the belt. It's more important that in 2 weeks, AEW is going to give us a championship match on a Saturday night between Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega. So it's not helping anybody. This whole thing doesn't help anybody. I think nobody, as Scooter said, this is a throwaway match. Nobody cares about it. I think this is the way you could do one or two things. Do what I'm saying, and as I'm fantasy booking, and Moose takes the title and stays and goes over and signs with AEW, or you just make Moose win the title. That's him bringing home, being the wrestling god, bringing home the Impact Championship back to Impact, and then Moose can drop it, or Moose can relinquish the title and then walk into AEW. Any way is possible, but I don't think Kenny should be holding the belt anymore because it doesn't do him any justice.
Scooter, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, yeah, we're all putting credence in. Oh, there's got to be somebody who gets the rub by taking the belt off Kenny. And I don't think anybody's going to get that rub at this point. When Kenny gets beaten for that title, it's not going to matter.
I mean, the guy that kind of needed the rub to make his championship run legitimate got blasted in with Swan. So, yeah, you would be right in that.
Yeah, we keep hoping that there's something up, that proverbial ace up the sleeve for Impact, and there's just nothing there. It's the worst magician's assistant in the world.
Let's go into something that WWE might be regretting. There's been talks about Aleister Black coming back to WWE, and that his firing might have been premature. Should WWE make a play to bring Aleister Black back? And if so, does Aleister Black actually go back? Scooter.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Aleister, or as he's now going by, he's back to being Tommy again. Yep, he was on Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad's Twitch stream the other day, and he was answering questions about, strangely enough, about his wife's OnlyFans and the costuming and everything. Did not. It didn't bring up anything, related to, bringing back. I haven't seen anything about. Okay, wait, I'm actually hearing that, and I'm seeing that it's Aleister Black to be taken back and somebody else to be released.
Well, that would be pretty terrible.
Yeah, that would be.
Can it be Baron
Yeah.
Corbin though?
No, because honestly, there's something in Corbin. There is something there.
At least
It
they see
it,
it anyway.
it has to come out, and once we see it, Corbin is gonna get. Yeah, Corbin will shoot to the top.
Let's get back to Aleister Black. Should WWE bring him back, and should Aleister Black actually go back?
Yeah. I I think yes, he should go back. I think. I mean, if if he stayed, if he refused, a rehiring, it, we would be cutting off his nose to spite his face. Now, I'm wondering if there is any sort of clause in these contracts that could allow them to negate the firing.
I mean, it's WWE. There should be a loophole somewhere in there. Oh,
But the fact that there's more coming, I I I don't know. I think Alistair would probably be very. It would probably be great to have back out on the road. Plus, Alistair Black has the look of a main event champion.
hmm. What about you, Drew? What are your thoughts? Should Aleister Black go back if they actually do want him?
If they want him, sure, why not? Why not go back? But if I'm smart, I'm negotiating my contract to be totally different. My contract is going to be I'm there on a pro bono basis. I'm going to be like an actor. So if I'm on Raw or SmackDown, I look at it. Say it's WrestleMania season, right? So if I come back this particular month or in July, my contract will end at WrestleMania. Then we can renegotiate that contract for me to come back as that same character. I think what we need to start doing as professional wrestling fans is start to look at these guys as actors and actresses on a television show. I think our major problem is that we still think wrestling is what most of us grew up with. And that's not what wrestling is anymore. Wrestling is it's an entertainment medium. So these guys and girls are playing characters on this particular TV show. That's why we have so many medical dramas, but they all fit. And that's how wrestling should be. We have wrestling, you can have a bunch of wrestling, but okay, for instance, what I say medical dramas, you have Grey's Anatomy, you got New Amsterdam, The Resident, Good Doctor. They're all the same thing. They are medical dramas, but they're telling different stories. The characters are doctors, nurses, etc., but they're telling different stories. And I think our problem is that we've gotten too bogged down to believe that what the WWE is selling us or any other wrestling organization is telling us is that this is the way wrestling is. And I think if we're talking about Tommy End or Aleister Black going back, he should, but he should go back based upon his terms and what he wants to see the Aleister Black character be. So if we shot these amazing vignettes with all that stuff before he got released. So if the release is wrong, okay, but he needs to, as a entertainer, figure out a way to come back to make it work for yourself.
Hypothetically speaking, who in WWE is currently the McSteamy and McDreamy? Drew.
Let's who's McDreamy? That's Roman Reigns. The women them love Roman Reigns. The women love them some Roman Reigns. That's their guy. I would say if you wanted to throw another guy in there and it's on SmackDown, that's Cesaro because he has that nice cut, nice body. But honestly, if you ask women, if you turn on SmackDown and Roman Reigns is on the screen, 9 times out of 10 the women are gonna stop and look.
I would say Otis is McSteamy. No,
His dreams.
no, I would probably say Dolph. It's McSteamy. Yeah, the guy who's always coming in second place just can't seem to surpass the guy in first.
Wow, that was way accurate.
Because that's what McSteamy was to McDreamy. McSteamy was something that was created to make Eric Dane feel better on the set of Grey's Anatomy. Let's face it.
Scooter, you're 100% right, man. You're right. You're right.
Talking about this.
And that's and to be honest with you, that's the way I've been looking at wrestling for the past few weeks. Like, let's stop looking at about what. Yes, the guys and girls can do amazing stuff in the canvas of the ring, right? But what has always drawn us to what they do in the ring? It's the story, and we sit there and we criticize a guy like Aleister Black. He's not getting an opportunity. He's not getting an opportunity. He's not getting an opportunity, right? This whole, we need to see more of Aleister. We need to, and he is a main event talent, but does the writing team, does the creative people see him the same way? Do they see him as the marquee guy? Do they see him as the babyface going up against Roman Reigns, or do we have to call back guys from the dead? Like in shows, guys pass on. They always do these. Oh, they're in an alternate universe. So one of the main characters are in a coma, and they go to this either an island or a place that they've been before, and we go get John Cena because John Cena will pop a rating. We'll go get The Undertaker to pop a rating. We'll call Stone Cold that can't do anything physically in the ring to sell the story. But we have a bunch of people that are uber talented that can probably write their own promos for these characters, that can actually formulate a character that will be believable, because Aleister Black's, I think it was called the Dark Father character that he was coming in with.
Right.
He looks so believable in these vignettes, because if you look at it, a person that doesn't watch wrestling and they see him on the screen, you know what their first mindset they're going to? You know who he looks like? That commander guy off of Handmaid's Tale. That's where they're going with it. So we need, as fans, we need to start conditioning ourselves to look at wrestling. Yes, it's a sport. Yes, what they do in the ring, they can get hurt, all of that stuff, because it's stunts. It's like any other movie. It's like watching the Avengers. It's like watching Spider-Man. It's like watching Jackie Chan back in the day, Bruce Lee, etc., etc. We need to stop trying to figure out where we would love, because there's obviously there's shows where we're like, I would love to see this guy more on TV, and then you're disappointed, right? Or a show gets canceled and you're disappointed. But as wrestling fans, we have an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not liking what I see on TV. I'm not going to watch it. And then when the ratings start to drop, it's either the writing team changes it or they keep the status quo. And that's our problem as wrestling fans. We just are conditioned to tune in every Monday, tune in every Friday, especially with WWE, tune in on Tuesday nights for NXT, and we get the same thing over and over again. And then we get on this medium like podcasts and talk about it and say we want different. But any other show or any other entertainment medium, the people read the room, and I think that's the problem with WWE. They're not reading the room. Aleister Black should have never been in that release form. Talk to him to renegotiate his contract down if you're trying to budget cut. That's another thing they could have done. Talk to these guys, talk to these girls, instead of just saying you're released and now you can't work for 90 days. That's another problem.
You're very true about that. Let's talk about somebody that got out of his WWE contract willingly. Andrade. He made his AEW debut last week. Um, we always talk about, having that stigma of being a WWE guy. Is it a wise decision for AEW just to pick up all these WWE guys and have that backlash, or is it actually a smart play by them to get, honestly, a great talent like Andrade? Scooter.
I think they went after him for one reason, and the reason is
Stadium.
not bingo.
Yeah.
It's that that opens up the possibility that when Charlotte's contract is up, there'll be a voice in her ear and more of an argument for her to go to AEW.
Now, do you think that would actually be a possibility? Scooter?
I mean, quite honestly, Charlotte's done it all the WWE. I wouldn't be surprised if she said she wants to try something somewhere else. I mean, it is a tradition for flares to go from place to place.
Very true. And it does seem like she's her own person and not kind of maybe the company goal, I suppose.
Okay, I'll start. I'll start with the Charlotte thing. I didn't mean to cut you off there, James, but
no, I was throwing it to you.
Okay. I think with Charlotte, like you said, Charlotte's her own woman, so it's a possibility that Andrade's in her ear. And like Scooter said, she's done everything in the WWE. There's no challenge there. And maybe there's a challenge in AEW. And I think and to go back to the whole stigma of a WWE guy, it's like I was saying before, there shouldn't be stigmas because we see it all the time in acting where a guy could be a lifer on a television show and he moves on and goes to a different show. We don't say he has ER stigma on him or he has comedic acting on him when he goes to a dramatic role. I think what we need to do is look at it. Andrade wasn't being utilized at the biggest company in professional wrestling around the world. He wasn't being utilized. He was sitting on the sidelines. He wanted a challenge, and AEW presented him with that challenge and presented him with an opportunity not only to broaden his fan base, but maybe help grow this brand into a legitimate contender beside the WWE. And that's another thing I want to say too, is that wrestling shouldn't be competing with each other. Wrestling organizations shouldn't be competing with each other. You guys do your stuff in your universe. The WWE does its stuff in its universe. And if somebody that works there decides that, hey, here is not the place for me, I am not able to maximize my potential here or my earnings here, and there's another place I can go and do so, or there's a plethora of places I can go and do so, then why not? I don't think there should be a stigma on guys anymore and girls that decide to go leave WWE and go to AEW. But I think, to be honest with you, AEW is with the signings of the older guys, like the Mark Henrys and the Christian Cages and the Paul Whites. I think what they've done there is smart. Instead of trying to bring them in to pop ratings, they're using and utilizing them to help them grow their younger talent. So if Andrade is there, that's a guy that's been around the world a couple times, has wrestled in other places, that can help a younger talent that may or may not understand what it's like to wrestle on television. And that was one of the biggest problems that AEW was having before the pandemic.
All right. And talking about somebody that was definitely in their husband's ear, there will be an NWA All Women's pay preview soon. It's being produced by Mickey James. Wonder how she got that. Is this a good idea for NWA to have an all women's pay preview when they might not actually have the talent to sell that pay preview? You kind of get what I mean, Scooter?
Yeah, I mean, what are they gonna? They're gonna build to what, a Thunder Rosa Mickey James match?
Oh,
I
dude, that
mean,
will put butts in the seat.
I'm assuming Thunder Rosa Serena Deeb.
Right now, the current NWA Women's Champion is Nick Aldis's bodyguard, Camille.
Oh, that's right, Camille won it.
Yeah.
So now, that even actually makes kind of even more sense for Mickey James to be in the main event of that pay-per-view.
Again, wonder how she got that role.
Again, I would probably say maybe even the title doesn't main event the pay-per-view, and they maybe try to pull off another thing like they did with Thunder Rosa on AEW.
Do you actually see NWA calling, calling AEW and Impact to try and get some more names on their card, on this card?
Yeah, yes.
They would kind of have to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost given that there's going to be a battle royal.
Oh my god.
I mean, they're kind of going to have to be. I mean, and given that this would be really almost like new territory for the NWA specifically, I would even say screw it and make the battle, have a battle royal, make that the first match, and have the winner go and face Camille for the NWA Women's Title. Don't set out the opponent in advance.
That might be something.
Because that would probably kill more buys than it would kill more buys than it would generate.
What say you, Drew? Good idea, bad idea? All women's pay preview NWA.
I'm all for it because here's the thing: there is a plethora of talented women in this industry of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to showcase them any which way, shape, or form. Mickey James, I think, after what happened in WWE to her and her mistreatment on how her stuff came back to her and all that kind of stuff. And I think she probably has a great rapport with Billy Corgan because of Nick Aldis. And I don't think she should wrestle on that show. I think she should be back there being the producer of the show like they said she's going to be. And yeah, if it's something where you go to Ring of Honor, you go to Impact, AEW, anywhere, and she did say it in her promo on Power this week, is that she's looking for the best. So if the best means anywhere and everywhere, then sure. And that will be a place that we're showcasing for one night women's professional wrestling. Because to be honest with you, some of the matches in the last couple of years by the women have been way better than the men.
Very true.
And I think what we also need to do is support women's wrestling, because I'm coming from a time, and I think me and Scooter are in the same age bracket, that the women's match used to be, and I quote, the cigarette match or the concession stand match, unless they were taking off their shirts and showing you their bra and panties. Now they're actually showing you that they're athletic enough, they're strong enough, and capable enough to look amazing and on par with some of the women. To me, my favorite wrestler in AEW is not a male. It's Jade Cargill. Is to me, he has the look, the talent, and everything that easily could show up on the NWA pay-per-view and be showcased. And that's what I want to see. I want to be able to tune in, and a dad of daughters that is trying to get their children into pro wrestling, but that would be on their own accord. But so they can turn on the TV and say, hey, that girl, she's cool. I want to buy her t-shirt and want to buy her headband and want to go to the shows. That's what we need. We need these things, because now we're coming out of a time that we were all locked down. We weren't able to go to shows. We weren't able to be around people. We weren't able to just do what we normally did. WrestleMania weekend came around, and fans from all over the world would jump on a plane or wherever and drive and go to all the indie shows. Now we're getting back to that. So I'm all for this pay-per-view. I'm all for women's wrestling. I'm all for wrestling if it's good. If it's crap, I'm going to say it's crap. But for right now, for what they're saying, go ahead, knock yourself out.
All right. And when asked about this pay-per-view, Triple H said that WWE has the best women's roster, and all female, and I don't think it was just female, but all talent want to be in WWE. Is this Triple H kind of just pulling a Tony Khan at this point, Scooter?
I mean, quite honestly, I'm not even sure.
Well, I mean, we could go into a whole debate about if WWE has the best women. It would be the whole show, though. But I mean, WWE does have the best women's roster, right?
Yes.
And you know, we talk a lot about this. How I see it, it's WWE, Impact Wrestling, Limitless Wrestling has the three greatest women rosters on pro wrestling today. And I will say I'm a little biased for Limitless, but that's kind of how I see it. But you think that this might be how Triple H actually feels, Scooter?
Yeah. I think part of me thinks, yeah, that it's like, it's just like a little like, you're planning on doing this, it ain't gonna work, and
Awesome. What about you, Drew? Do you think it was just a playful jab by Triple H, or is it or does he actually feel what he said?
There's two ways of looking at this. Two ways. The first way you can look at it is, James, do you feel like you have the best podcast in the world?
Well, I mean, I have to.
So why wouldn't Triple H say he has the best female roster in the world? He's a promoter.
Right.
He promotes NXT. He promotes NXT, so he is going to say that they have the best roster in the world because he is trying to sell it to the world that he has the best roster. That's one way of looking at it. The second way of looking at it is that Triple H was tone deaf. because you can't say years ago that we want to revolutionize women's wrestling, and then when somebody is going to do what you've already done, WWE, with your Evolution pay-per-view, and well, they ain't gonna last. It's like when Tony Schiavone said about Mick Foley winning the championship. That's gonna put butts in the seats. And what happened? So you gotta look at you. It's either he was trying to say, yeah, we got the best. We're all the best wrestlers want to come here because yes, the WWE is the top organization when it comes to professional wrestling. I don't hear any women that are in mixed martial arts say they want to fight in Bellator, or they want to fight in PFL, or they want to fight in ONE FC out in Asia. They want to fight. The best fighters are in the UFC. So that's Triple H saying the best female wrestlers are in the WWE. The other way, like I said, he was tone deaf, because you can't sit there and say we're the only place that you're going to find the best female wrestlers and then crap on somebody else that is trying to build up female wrestlers. All he could have said, to be honest with you, was, you know what? I wish them the best of luck at what they're trying to do. That's it. This is too many times where guys and girls in this industry that you're a suit. So you sit on a board of directors that you have to have meetings with to say what you're going to do. And then you want to turn on the Triple H persona. The persona is dead. That's your character. Paul Levesque needs to speak. And when Paul Levesque speaks, you shouldn't discredit anybody else. I live in Canada, okay? And we have two telecommunications companies in this country, Rogers and Bell. And you know what's funny? Combined, they own the Toronto Maple Leafs. But you will never hear them criticize each other when one is showing the Raptors and one is showing the Maple Leafs. And at times during the Olympics, they come together. So there is no reason why a guy that's a suit for the largest wrestling company in the world should talk disparagingly about another organization trying to uplift women. That's why we are the same place where we are when it comes to female wrestling.
All right. And the last bit of news, Shingo Takagi wins the IWGP World Championship. I kind of counted him out of this match before I went into it. And then he won. And I'm really happy he won. And we had talked about maybe Shingo being one of those four pillars not too long ago on the show. So do you see that this was right time, right place for Shingo, and that now he's going to be maybe a much needed breath of fresh air for New Japan? Or do you think they're just kind of transitioning, he's a transitional champion for somebody that they're looking for? Scooter.
That's a tough call. Just considering that, given that, they have the established champions, already on the roster. But then again, why not just give it to one of them if you're gonna put it on someone like Takagi? I think they're looking for Takagi to prove himself, and I'm sure they have a backup plan at least, given everything with Ospreay.
Right. Drew, you have any brief comments on the situation?
I'm happy that Shingo finally won the title. I just think, like I was saying before when I was with you guys a few months ago, New Japan needed to shuffle the deck chairs, and which they have with Ospreay and now Shingo. I think going forward, for him to establish himself as a true main eventer, he needs to beat Will Ospreay when Will Ospreay comes back. And that's pretty much it.
Just a follow-up question to that. It kind of seems like there is doubt that Will Ospreay will ever come back. If he doesn't come back and Shingo doesn't beat him, does that put an asterisk on his championship reign?
Yeah, it does, 100%. Because Will Ospreay had to vacate the title. He didn't lose the title.
True.
So Shingo winning, in a sense, he's an interim champion. And we always know this in mixed martial arts, especially with the UFC. When we have interim champions, that interim champion has to beat the actual champion to solidify himself as the world champion. So,
oh, I'm sorry, my allergies.
So, there is an asterisk on his win. So going forward, I just think New Japan is in a transitional space with everything going on with their whole talks with WWE. I think all over it's right now they're just trying they're throwing pasta at the wall and trying to make it stick.
I like sticky pasta.
And that'll conclude our news for this week. Now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.